Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope y'all are having a great day so far. And today, what I really wanted to talk about was something that I know that personally a lot of people struggle with. I'm sure a lot of you may have seen it in your life or you struggle with it yourself. It's been something I've been through a lot, and it's drugs and alcohol. And for today, I'm just going to stick to smoking because smoking and drinking is legal for most people in a lot of places. And I don't want to start by saying I condone or condemn either way, as long as you're following the law and you're doing what's best for yourself because everyone's different. But I think a lot of people misunderstand substances and they abuse them and they get themselves in these cycles and they trap themselves, they pigeonhole themselves into these boxes and these ways of thinking. And if people just would take a break from it, then it would be so much better for themselves. Like if you're smoking every day, it may feel like it's just your normal self. And the same with drinking, but especially a lot of smokers, because there aren't the hangovers per se, is when you're smoking every day, you may think you're sober, you get this tolerance where you smoke a little and you don't feel it, you just start your day like that. And when you start doing that, you're constantly living in a non-sober state. So after a while, like the 21 days, it becomes a habit. And then that is part of your identity now. You are a smoker or a drinker if you drink every day, or if it becomes a huge part of your life, like the club scene, and then other drugs factor in a lot, mostly with drinking. And it's when you start to do that constantly, it's completely taking over your mind. Like if you think about it, you know if you stop smoking daily, that things will change, that your life will change. And people get really scared by that because once you associate it with your identity, like you may be doing this drug or this drinking right now, and this is what I'm gonna do when I drink. Like I'll drink, I'll have this confidence, I'll go, I'll talk to this girl, I'll talk to this person, it'll be better. And when you start, sometimes it is if you're a shy person. Like I started drinking when I was younger, and like I would make a lot of friends, I would go to parties, and it would be awesome. But then after a while, you cling to the substance versus what the activity you're trying to do is. After a while, in your mind, it goes from drinking or smoking to do an activity. Like I want to watch this movie, I want to go to this party, to I want to drink, I want to smoke. What am I going to do after that? And a lot of times, it's a lot of energy to go to this party and drink. Sometimes you're just too lazy to even pick a movie. So, if you're smoking, so after a while, it's like, I want to drink, I want to smoke, I want to do drugs, I want to do this as an activity. And then you're not building anything like you would of other activities. You're not building a skill, you're not crafting, you're not working towards anything like you would other skills, unless like maybe you're taking a more spiritual route to drugs and alcohol, but even that can be just kind of a delusion. It's just kind of a way to convince yourself to keep drinking, I think, in some situations. Because when you're drinking or smoking and you're constantly in that state where you're not sober, after a while, how long ago was the last time you were in a sober state? When was the last time that you went 4 or 5 days sober, a month sober, a year sober? And I'm saying you as in general. I'm not trying to come at anyone watching this video, but I think that you need to realize the power that these substances have on our mental effects. Like if you're drinking every day, I know when I drink a lot, then you start to be sad. Like you'll have the hangovers, you'll be anxious, you might even still be a little drunk, and you're like, I'm just gonna drink some more. And then the next thing you know, you're drunk again, and you're like, well, now I'm drunk, I might as well just keep going about my day being drunk. And it's just constantly falling, everything starts falling apart around you. And then if you don't sober up, by the time you do want to come sober, it's so scary because you identify with this drug, you identify with this substance, that this is why I act the way I act. I do these things because I drink, I do these things because I smoke. And when you stop smoking, when you stop drinking, when you go a few days, not wait till nighttime, like that can work in the future maybe for a lot of people because it is legal and it is helpful to a lot of people. But if you're going every day, when was the last time you made a choice without any substance, being a part of that choice? Like you go to chill with, like if you want to hang out with somebody, if you want to go on a date, If you're drinking all the time, how are you going to go on that date without drinking? And if you're smoking all the time, especially if you isolate yourself with these substances, like drinking, it's a little bit hard. You want to be around of people, but it definitely happens. But even with smoking, if you're alone, you're not going to get into these situations. You're not going to have these opportunities because you're isolating yourself. You're not building anything, and that's the biggest problem, I think, is with these substances. Whereas if you have a hobby, if you're musical, you can go and you're developing a skill. If you're an artist, you are building physically your craft. But with drugs and alcohol, it becomes a pastime, it becomes an activity, and you're not doing anything with your time. You're not working towards anything. Especially if you're just drinking and smoking and watching and staring at a TV. I have a TV over there. It used to be so easy. I would just had the couch right in front of the TV and I would just stare at it all day. And it just wastes time. You're just going through the motions of life. You're just kind of, in a sense, you might not think about it, but you're really waiting to die when you're on these substances. If you're not able to handle normal life sober anymore, then you're just using the substances to waste your time. And that's in the most positive sense. You're just trying to waste your time. In the most negative sense, if you're on these substances, your mind isn't right. You could be feeling depressed, anxious, withdrawals that you might not realize just because you might be doing less or doing more, or just so many things that we don't understand about the science of these drugs because they're so powerful. 1,000 years ago, if someone came across some cocaine or any of these drugs, or more developed, like the cannabis or alcohol back in the day is not the same we have today. If they came across these substances, they would think they were magical, they would think they were from the gods, and we use them every day without really understanding what they are. And I don't want to come down on alcohol or smoking because I think it has its purposes. Like, people bond when they drink together, people go out, and maybe there is that guy that's a little shy, but he's a really good guy, and he'll get a drink, and maybe he'll meet someone very important. Maybe he'll talk to someone when he drinks. Or if you're a really stressed person, or if you have an actual medical reason, if you're doing it for medical reasons why you're smoking versus if it's recreational, that completely changes everything. But if it's just recreational, then you're really just wasting your time unless you have a goal, which I don't think most people do. They don't smoke to meditate. They don't smoke or do drugs to be at a spiritual level. They don't go at it with a goal. And if you don't have a goal in it, you're either escaping from life, and at some point you are going to have to come back to regular life. And I don't know what everyone's religion is, but whether you believe in reincarnation or whether you believe that afterlife you go straight to whatever afterlife, whatever is next for you in your beliefs. But if people who believe in reincarnation, then you see that there is no escape, that I could spend my entire lifetime drinking and smoking. I'll die, and I'll have to come to that karma eventually. I'll have to face the actions of my consequences eventually. So I just think if everyone would realize the actions they're taking when they choose to smoke or drink every day, especially when they're in that drug or alcohol-induced cycle, you need to take a moment to break through, maybe meditate, and just stop. Because if you wake up still a little drunk, still a little high, you might go and pursue that substance more, and that's a whole nother day your life wasted, a whole nother day you can't make sober thoughts. So if you just recognize that, understand what these substances are, then you can choose to drink when it makes sense, choose to smoke when it makes sense, and choose to do an amount that makes sense. Personally, like, I'm of age, so it's not an issue. I always keep alcohol in my house. I don't drink much anymore. This is probably the longest I've gone sober in a very long time for me, and I like to keep it in the house. It's just a mental thing. I like knowing that if I needed that escape, the escape, I could have it there. Or also I like knowing that I'm not hiding from it, because also a lot of people, if you throw it all out, which works for a lot of people, everyone's different, but me, if I was to throw out everything, there'd be that moment of, now I'm trapped. I don't have any option. And it might be okay for a day, but a couple days down the road, you might be upset. And then you go, wow, I need this now. I can't escape. I'm trapped. I don't care about what I wanted at the time. I need to feel better. I need to feel myself. And then you might go and don't go to the store, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. It's like going hungry when to a grocery store. You're going to buy drugs, you're going to drink when you're fiending for a fix. You're gonna buy a lot, especially if you let your tolerance drop. Like if you let your tolerance drop and then you go and buy a lot, that's how people die with the harder drugs. So with drinking, like, you're gonna have the horrible hangover because you're not used to it. And with smoking, and once you understand what they are, you can come to that decision with a sober mind. I can go into drinking and smoking and weigh the options. But I also personally would feel not trapped because I have the alcohol, and it's when you hide from it, personally for me, is when it becomes a problem, is hiding from the substances versus acknowledging what they are, what they do, and what their purpose is. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, especially in the health class systems, is they say no to doing this, no to doing this. They don't teach why they are, what they could be used for. And that's to each his own why we do things politically. I didn't want to make this video to talk about how to quit or to talk about the political system in general, about how drugs should be managed. But I wanted to give people an idea of what they were, that drugs are not you. If you're watching this, listen to me. If you're struggling with this, listen to me. These drugs, these alcohol, they are not you. They affect your body, they affect your mind, but they are not your soul. They will never be your soul, and they will never reach your soul. But your soul will suffer if your mind and body are constantly doing things that are hurting your karma, or whatever you want to call it. If you're constantly being in a bad vibrational state, if you're constantly pushing yourself full of bad energy, then you're not going to reap the benefits of being alive. And once you see that that the substances are not you, that they are apart from you, and they are a choice that you make, that they are your choice, and you have that power. No one can take that power away from you. I've never seen someone held down and have drugs or alcohol forced into their body without any say whatsoever. I mean, there's peer pressure, but that's when you need to understand what it is you want and don't want. Peer pressure is going to be so much less effective on you when you understand the substances better than your friends and colleagues. Now, I don't want this video to be too long, but I thought it was very important, so I kind of went on a tangent. I hope you take some value from this. I hope if anyone's struggling with it, I'll put some links in the description, I guess, of some things that I think personally would work for me if I was still struggling or if I was worse in these situations. But also, if you want to reach out to me in any way, I just hope this finds whoever needs to see it, and I hope anyone's watching has a beautiful day. Everybody stay safe out there.